Hey, what's the story? In today's video, how to customize your Sony camera like the Sony ZV-E1 so you no longer have to start digging through menus one after the other to find just the function that you need. And I promise you, once you start doing this, it's going to up your game hugely. And the thing is, it only takes a couple of minutes to do this. So let's dive in. Let's press menu on the Sony ZV-E1. This is the newer menu system. So depending on the camera you have, you might see this. It could be hidden somewhere else, but it is in a lot of Sony cameras, so don't freak out. Now, this one is one of the first ones we're going to take a look at here. It is incredibly useful. So what we got to do is add an item. Now, essentially what this is, it allows you to add whatever you want from nearly every function in the Sony ZV-E1 menu system. So something that I use quite a lot and you use quite a lot is format. Now, it can be a pain to dig through all trying to find where the format function is. So let's add format as an example here. We're going to find format in media and then select format. So we can add this to whatever location, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. In this case, I'm going to add to menu 1. And then we see added. Now, if we go back by pressing menu, we can now see we have my menu 1. And we have the format option. So now instead of digging through all the menus, you can just go to the star one at the top, press format, and then format everything on your card. And then you can add whatever else you want inside here. Now, here's what I would say for a lot of this customization. The more you use the camera, the more you're going to figure out the things that you're going to use all the time. So for some things, stick them into my menu 1. Something else here could be file format. It could be white balance, whatever you want. But take your time with it, but just figure it out as you go along. The bulk of the Sony ZV-E1 and a lot of Sony cameras customization is down in something called Operation Customize, Dial Customize, and Touch Operation to a degree as well. But we're going to look at Operation Customize. Now, this might sound really complicated because it's called Operation Customize. It's not. So just take your time. So we've got lots of different options here. We have a custom key dial set for photo, this is for video, and then for playback, we have custom key setting. Then we have FN menu settings. Then we have different sets for stills or movies. This is really important. Then we have our display screen. We have our record with shutter, which means you can record with the shutter button. So just turn that on. But the ones we're going to take a look at here are the custom key for movies or pictures. So let's select this one. So on the rear of the camera, we have a number of options. You can see that they're highlighted here on the right. So currently on the rear, these are always following custom. So these are following the custom modes that I've set for the movie ones, and so on and so forth. So we can go to rear, we can go to top, we can go to the lens, because on a lot of Sony lenses, there is a function button. In fact, on a lot of other lenses, there's also a function button. So you can assign that to do whatever you want as well, within reason. And then on the Sony ZV-E1, we have 2 different wheels. We have number 1 and number 2. So if we go into any of these here, we can just press select. And then we can either have it following what's going on in the movies, or we can start looking at this option here. So we have the focus area, the move the autofocus frame. That could be another option. We can have exposure compensation, white balance, or color tone. So if you assign, we'll say aperture to this, which it is by default in a lot of cases. And then when you use the dial, we can see that the aperture is now moving up and down. So that could be something that you could really dig into and start using. And again, it's the exact same idea once we get back into Operation Customize here and we jump back into the movie settings. So we've slightly different options, but we can assign any of the keys here on the back. So we have a step zoom, product showcase set, which if you're holding stuff to the camera, it's really useful to have. And again, if you want to change one of these, press it and then scroll away to your heart's content and you'll find whatever you want. So those are 2. And then the custom key setting. So if you're playing back stuff on the camera by pressing the play button, you can enlarge the image by hitting the little magnifying glass symbol. We can send it to our phone. And then if we look at the top, we also have other options. And again, to change these to whatever you need, you can do whatever. So something that a lot of people will do is they'll rate their photographs as they take them. So you can put in a rating, whether that's a 5-star rating, for example. And then now that if we press 1, it's going to rate our photo as a 5-star rating, which is really useful if you're using something like Lightroom that will read the metadata and see how many stars you've assigned to a particular photo. The next one is, as far as I'm concerned, the most important setting in every Sony camera that's out there, I think, at this stage, within reason. From stuff like the older Sony ZV-E1, which has now ceased production. It's at the end of its life. Obviously, the new Sony ZV-E2, which is a... But this FN menu settings is going to save you so much trouble. If there's anything you take out of this video, it's this one. Forget everything else. This is the really, really super important one that's going to level you up hugely. We have two options here. We have the FN or the function menu for photo and for video. So depending on the mode that you're in, if you're in photo mode, you will only see the photo settings. If you're in the movie mode and you press the FN button, these are the ones that you'll see. So for this one here, for example, this is the way that I've got mine set up, but again, you do you. And it's very easy to change. So for example, here I've got my picture profile, but what about if I wanted to have the old creative look in there? All you got to do is press what you want, and then I'm going to bring it back to picture profile, and you can move these around and delete what you want and what you don't want to use. So we have recognition target. Maybe I want to change that to face memory, or again, it could be a focus map, it could be your peaking display, it could be whatever. So what I've got here set up to give you guys some kind of idea, I've got my picture profile, my white balance, the microphone directivity, which of course on the Sony ZV-E1, does it pick up from all around, or does it just in front or just behind? Or audio record level, which is really important depending on what you're shooting. And the mic, you might need a little bit hotter or a little bit warmer, lower. Steady shot. This should absolutely be in your FN. So your function menu should have steady shot, so you can turn it on and off really, really easily. Your peaking display shows when stuff is in focus and when it's not. Have this in there, depending on what you're shooting, but it's no harm to have it in there. And if you're doing a lot of photography, your recognition target, whether it's a bird or an animal or a human, no harm to help out like Skynet chips and the Sony ZV-E1. Your touch function in shooting, whatever the touch function is that you want, have that in there if you're going to be using touch functions a lot. Focus mode, same for the focus mode. The focus area, is it going to be a wide? Is it going to be a particular spot for focusing? Soft skin effect, I've got it in here for absolutely no reason, and I'm just going to take it out and I'm going to put in my zebra display. So the zebra display will show you when stuff is overexposed or when it's not. And then this one here is the shoot mode. This is super, super useful if you want to quickly change your shoot mode. Now, that's it. So once we go back here to the camera and we press the FN button, now we have got our photo settings because we are in photo mode. So let's switch over to video, press FN, and there we go. We've got all of our stuff here. And of course, these are fully touch interactive, so you don't have to scroll around. You can just go pop, tap, and you are good to go. The different set for stills or movies is really useful if you find yourself taking photos and videos quite a lot on the same shoot. So if we make sure anything here is ticked, these are all independent. So these won't carry over from one mode to the other. So let's make them all independent just for the hell of it. Let's press OK. Now that we're back here, we can see that I'm in video mode, 1/50, and the aperture is 2.0. But let's go to photo mode, and I was in 1/80 and f16. So completely independent settings, which is super, super useful. You won't believe how fast that will make you, because you don't have to be fiddling with dials to get everything back the way that you want. This one here, again, from a customization perspective, is really useful, and you should be using the display button on the Sony ZV-E1 because it gives you a ton of info. So you should display all info, exposure on, exposure timeout, histogram, or level. So every time that you press the display button, which is up by default on the little thumb pad, it's going to cycle through all of the different displays, which means you know exactly what's going on. That's some serious customization on the Sony ZV-E1, and that menu system is quite similar for a lot of Sony cameras, and even if it's not, the customization function is nearly the exact same. That FN button alone is incredibly valuable. So as opposed to just throwing random stuff in there, over the next couple of times that you use the camera, you're going to find stuff that you're using quite a lot, but you're always scrolling or trying to dig it out of the menus, which is a real pain in the butt because the Sony menus are better, but they're still very deep. So write those down and then customize. Why was my tongue out? And then customize. And then customize those menus based off of your exact workflow. Don't take my one, you can take some inspiration from it or some ideas, but use your own, because everybody uses the camera slightly differently. And if you can speed up your workflow and it's just an easier experience. And why wouldn't you want to do that with the Sony ZV-E1 or any Sony camera? And here's the other thing. Why wouldn't you want to check out the video here, which has got a full breakdown of all of the entire settings in the Sony ZV-E1.